The morning started a little bit early, but it was wonderful to have a beautifully hosted breakfast from all of the 4-H members from across the state. I got to sit down to a great breakfast with 22 members of 4-H from Butte Silver Bow. I saw some Butte High students there and some nieces of a friend of mine, and it was a great way to start the day. So thanks 4-H for everything you do for our state and for teaching us about your organization over breakfast this morning. Between 7:30 and 8, a lot of representatives from the education community, the school board members, superintendents, the School Administrators Association, and MEA MFT were down in the bullpen to answer questions about the school funding bill that you're about to hear a whole bunch about in the news. The LC number was 132, but now it's far enough along in the process that it's going to be called Senate Bill 175, and it's carried by Senator Lou Jones, and it for the first time in history, all of these organizations have come together to agree on a mechanism and a formula for school funding. It'll be really interesting to follow that along in the process and see how it turns out. I have started reaching a point where the constituent emails are feeling unmanageable, and I have a hard time when I'm about to vote on a bill or when I'm deciding how to vote on a bill, finding which emails were about that. So I made that my project for the day. Business and Labor didn't start until 8:30 because of the 4-H breakfast, so I spent a half an hour this morning in between those two meetings sorting through those emails and organizing them by whether they were from Butte or not from Butte, and organizing them by which bills they're talking about. And it's already turned out to be well worth the time. And also, of course, in the process, responded to the emails that I hadn't responded to yet. Business and Labor this morning started at 8:30 and lasted until about 10 o'clock, and we heard 4 new bills, 212, 190, 226, and 204. 204 was actually tabled by the sponsor without a hearing, and we didn't ask her during the meeting why she did that. I don't think anyone wants to make anyone feel on the spot, but I kind of wanted to ask her and find out why that would happen, because I haven't seen anybody do that yet. Bills 212 and 190 were more kind of government agency cleanup bills. That didn't seem like there was anything nefarious or hidden in there. But Bill 226 was a bill to exempt IT workers from overtime pay. So there's a place in Montana law where it lists supervisors, administrators, executives from any overtime pay because they're basically like salaried professionals is the term that's used. And this would add to that language, oh yeah, and also computer programmers and IT guys. And I was so disappointed and irritated that a member near me on the committee laughed at the testimony that was given by IBEW Local 233 member who came to testify about the right of workers to charge their employers for the time that they give them, the time away from their family and the time out of their lives. So that was just really disappointing. But Keith from IBEW did an awesome job coming and really representing the worker on that. And I was also really proud of Representative Squires, who obviously knew a ton of history about that bill and was able to ask the Chamber of Commerce representative some really poignant questions, and then also to really kind of open up what was actually behind that bill. It would be a good hearing to watch if you're interested in that kind of stuff. It's so clear that this is a bill that takes money right out of the pocket of a middle-class employee. They even talked about what the wage was. And it's not like we're talking about $250,000 a year. We're talking about people who make like between $40,000 and $50,000 a year, which might be a little bit over the average for Montana, but that's still a middle-class person. We passed House Bills 141, 190, and 212, and so since we were done at 10, that left me with quite a bit of time before the lunch meeting and before the House session started. I went back to organizing those emails, and while I was trying to get through all of that kind of clerical work, the Democrat members of the Judiciary Committee warned me really that the bill that I was carrying for the firefighters on the speed limit is up tomorrow for executive action, and that they thought maybe it needed an amendment. So I spent probably 40 or 45 minutes going through the process of talking to lawyers and calling the people who had helped me and who had requested it to find out exactly what kind of an amendment we could bring to get it through committee. From 12 to 1, the same group of school representatives and a lot of senators and senators and representatives from both parties got together in the old Supreme Court chambers to talk about the school funding bill. The House floor started at 1 p.m. and there was only one bill that I was planning to vote no on, and the sponsor stood up right away and said that she would like to have it passed for the day. And in asking around about that, it was because it was kind of controversial in committee. It had a 9-7 vote, and I would guess that she is going to be working with the agencies, state agencies, to maybe bring some amendments to help that along in the process so it doesn't get killed on the floor. We heard testimony on House Bill 74 today. I think that's a 7. And in the course of that testimony, a representative stood up and said that we should not pass this bill that protects children because, as you well know, 70% of child abuse reports turn out to be unsubstantiated. And it just kills me when people want to protect full-grown adults from, Big Brother. But the cost of doing that is children's lives. It just really doesn't seem worth it. And I actually thought that bill was going to die because another representative stood up and gave a really personal testimony about a really serious experience that he had in his life. And I did not think that there would be anyone who would vote for the bill after he gave that personal story. But it still passed, and so that was a victory for the day, and we'll see how it does on third reading tomorrow. And then during the course of talking about House Bill 155, it was so ironic because just yesterday, someone on one side of the aisle said, I really hate arguments that this is a solution looking for a problem. I'll never agree with that argument. And then today on House Bill 155, not the same exact person, but someone with very similar ideals and beliefs stood up and said, I'm not going to vote for that. That is a solution looking for a problem. So, whatever works for you. At 2:30, the local government committee started a little bit early. We had a bill that had no proponents or opponents, so it was okay that we heard that, I think, even though the meeting time wasn't until 3. But then on the second bill that we heard, we had to, even after the hearing was supposed to be almost closed, we had to back it up a little bit and allow some people who were planning to come at 3 o'clock when the meeting was scheduled. The Bill 154 was to allow the county attorney to give legal advice on water districts, and there was interesting testimony there. And then House Bill 156 was. The title is worded that it allows city governments to decide to make zoning decisions if they can get 90% of approval from the residents. But really, all it's doing is restricting a local government's control on their own zoning decisions. And it turned out that the whole thing came from Missoula because their county commission is really fighting over this one issue right now. So they brought it to the legislature. It was really interesting testimony, and it'll be so interesting to see where that ends up. And then House Bill 194 raised the monetary limit from $25,000 to $50,000. That's the limit that city governments have to meet before they have to put a project out for a bid. I'm not talking about this very well, but basically if they're going to spend more than $50,000, then they have to put it out for bids. And it used to be if they were going to spend more than $25,000, then they had to put it out for bids. And I think that's going to pass. Everyone seemed to agree that that was a reasonable bill. No one was there as an opponent of it. So the Democrats on local government met real briefly after local government got out, and just to talk about the bills that are up for executive action and answer any questions. And then I was able to cut out a little bit early because I drove to Butte tonight, and I'll be back at it tomorrow. It's so great to hear still all of the positive feedback from everybody. Thank you so much for all of the encouragement. I hope you're paying attention, and I hope you're thinking about what you're going to do to get the right people elected in the future, and keep communicating with your government representatives and officials, because we work for you.